Two things are going to come out of this podcast. One, we're going to be canceled, and two, we're probably going to get divorced from our wives.
So fucking inappropriate. So fucking inappropriate.
It's like crying, just jerking into an empty hole. Like, what the fuck? Jerking into an empty hole. Jerking into an empty hole.
So fucking inappropriate.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it's time again for that top 10 list you don't give a fuck about by two guys you really don't give a fuck about.
All right, we are back again for another episode. This time, we have chosen to do top 10 toys from our childhood. Now, I'm not exactly sure how that could be inappropriate, but I'm sure we'll find a way.
I'm glad you specified childhood. This was a whole different list. I'm just saying, I'm glad, Fleshlight wasn't on this list. That'd be a weird-ass childhood toy,
Well, if you've been listening, you know that I am a horny motherfucker. So
He found Mommy's lightsaber.
Flashlight might be on the list.
Jeez. Are you going like till you were 18?
Yeah, childhood. Yeah.
Favorite toy from 13 on was hole in the side of the mattress. Anyway, all right.
All right, that only took 50 seconds to make it appropriate.
Let's go. Leave it to me. I came, I saw, I fucked it up.
You go ahead and start it off. This was my list this week, so we'll let you start.
All right, well, I actually did keep it as in childhood toys.
Mine is too.
Things that I remembered having a lot of fun with growing up. And my number 10 was the Viewmaster, man. I don't know if you remember the little Viewmaster or not.
I do. Is that the... Go ahead.
It was like a little red pair of goggles you look through. It had like a yellow handle on the side, and you put these discs in the top of it.
Okay.
And it was like, I don't know, what would you call it? Still shots from cartoons or movies?
Some of them were like 3D-ish or holographic-ish.
Yeah, they could be.
Like later on, I think.
You would have like National Geographic animals that you could put in there, from around the world and stuff. And it was like this little I don't know, slide picture show you just sat and looked through, I don't know, dude. I remember I had a whole box of those little discs.
Yep.
That went in it, and probably lost that Viewmaster 10 times and would find it behind a couch or something stupid somewhere one time. And I don't know, we didn't have the internet, motherfuckers, okay? I don't want to tell you. There was no Google. That was my Google. That and a whole set of encyclopedias.
We can bring that back, but make an adult version. Have naked chicks on there.
I mean...
Close-ups of vagina.
Isn't that just... Isn't that what the internet's for? I mean...
At some point in time, the internet's going to go out.
Post-apocalyptic world of... I've got Viewmaster slides of pussy.
No, I vividly remember those.
I need 3 quarts of water for it.
What?
Like you said, if the internet goes out, post-apocalyptic times,
I remember those. I just didn't remember what they were called, but Viewmaster, yeah.
Yeah, the Viewmasters, man.
Okay. This list is definitely nostalgic. So my number 10, it's just a football. And the reason I say that is because I remember after school was over, me and a couple of my buddies would always go out in the street, not a football field. We'd literally just go out in the street that we lived on and play fucking 2-on-2, 3-on-3.
Street ball.
Yeah, street ball.
I didn't do a whole lot of that until the Nerf Vortex came out. And because you could throw that thing forever and a day, man, that was... And it had little whistles on the side, so it sounded like a screaming eagle coming at you.
I remember all those, but I don't think we ever used any of those. I think it was just a Spalding or whatever brand makes.
Oh, yeah.
Wilson. Yeah. Wilson made footballs.
Wilson, yeah.
Yeah. So
well, there might have been a Spalding. They did basketballs I think. But I don't know.
But yeah, football, just a football. That's my number 10. I had so many.
I never got the good
times.
Wilson. I didn't get the brand name balls. I always got the off brand, Big Lots ball, so it wasn't made by Wilson. It was made by Billy Bob's or some shit, whatever off-brand of Wilson was.
Somehow you find it.
The Big Willie ball.
Somehow you find a way to make me the bougie one again.
Hey man, my dad was the only one that worked, and we had 7 kids. There wasn't a lot of Spalding money to go around, so to speak.
Well, you'll see in my list, I was an only child. I was spoiled as fuck. Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Grandma.
At least I didn't have to find friends. I had enough siblings to do 3-on-3 with a referee. Anyway, so yeah, Viewmaster in football.
Yep.
Viewmaster in football. I think they actually had. I think at one point in time they had sports clips you could throw in there and see shots of games from covers of magazines and stuff.
Another thing about this list, kids listening to it now are like, what the fuck?
Football? Who cares? I got 10 of those in my room. I don't even
Outside? We don't go outside.
I don't even use them anymore. I have Madden. What the fuck? I play career mode. Duh. Team builder. Where the fuck that is.
What's your number 9?
You see Nerf does Fortnite guns now? I'm
yes.
What fucking kid goes outside if they're playing Fortnite?
My kids have a couple of them.
It just hangs on my wall, man. It's like badge of honor and shit. It's the gun I got 87 kills with in a game, yeah. Now, apparently kids that play Fortnite are all stoners.
So that was like, why? What's your number 9, man?
All right. My number 9 was Teddy Ruxpin. That was probably one of the big name brand toys I remember having. And it was big at the time. It's kind of stupid now. You remember Teddy Ruxpin?
I remember it, but I don't think I ever had one.
Okay,
so what did it do?
It was like a bear. It was like this weird teddy bear, but it came with cassette tapes. And it was one of those things where the bear would hear the sounds from the cassette tapes and kind of interact a little bit here and there. It was kind of and that lasted for all 3 months for whatever inside of it fried, and it was just a teddy bear and you had cassette tapes at that point, you know what I'm saying? But it was one of those huge, it was a big craze on it back in the day. I would almost kind of enlighten it to the Tickle Me Elmo phase.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Where at the end of the 90s going into 2000s, it was Tickle Me Elmo, right? Well, in the 80s, it was Teddy Ruxpin. Yeah. That was kind of the big, And of course, after the 2000s took over, the new stuffed animal was Beanie Babies and shit. So that might have been late 90s, 2000s as well. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, it was the Teddy Ruxpin was kind of like that first big stuffed animal. I mean, you had your Cabbage Patch for and Barbie obviously, but that was kind of like that big kind of thing.
All right, Teddy what? How do you say it?
Ruxpin, Ruxpin.
Ruxpin.
If I remember it right. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I remember. Like I said, never had it though. My number 9. Back outside again. I spent a lot of my childhood outside. You children listening should be doing the same damn thing. But 20-inch bike. I never had a mountain. Well, I did have a mountain bike, but I vividly remember having a BMX bike. That's what I mean when I say a 20-inch.
Brakes or no brakes?
Huh?
Brakes or no brakes?
No, but freestyle. We called that bitch freestyle because you could go backwards. And you're supposed to have some on the bars, but I never did. And you got the pegs on the back. If you're really cool, you had them on the front. Maybe even had some mag wheels. Yeah, see, me and you know what we're talking about.
You were really good. You took one of your buddies on the back and the other one sat on the handlebars with the feet on the front pegs. You guys got around town that way.
I grew up in Fairborn, Ohio. I rode all over that fucking city on my BMX, or my 20-inch bike. Some of the most popular brands were Diamondback. There was another really expensive one. Now I did have name brand stuff. We were just joking about BB and Bougie and shit. In this instance, I never had a high-end one. So I took a Huffy, which was the Walmart brand or whatever, and I spray painted that bitch black. And I told everybody it was something else. I can't remember what I called it. but I basically lied as a kid because I wanted to feel like I had something really nice that other kids didn't have. So I had this black spray painted Huffy that I used to ride around on, and then I got some white mags on that bitch. Oh, man, I love my bike.
I had bikes growing up. We did a lot of biking around our neighborhood, and stuff, because it was one of the things where we were outside a lot. I guess almost take that one for granted a little bit, but when you're talking about the whole non-name brand, when all the kids, remember the scooters that came around after a while?
Yeah, it was later, but yeah.
It was, we ended up getting that, Walmart off-brand scooter when they started coming out. It wasn't was it Razors back then? Was that the big brand name, I think? Yeah. Yeah, we got the much more bigger Cadillac-ish type version of that scooter, because it was like a big bulkier version of it that Walmart sold for, way cheaper than a Razor brand or whatever. Yeah, I remember when those came out too. That was kind of it was big for a little bit, then you realize your bike was just so much faster.
Right. Mongoose. Sorry. That was
Mongoose.
Mongoose and Diamondback were like the two big ones when I was a kid.
What's messed up is I could see the logo in my head, but the name was completely blanking on me. I remember. A Mongoose bike. You had a Mongoose in your neighborhood. You were like,
you were the shit.
You were the shit. Yeah, you were the new place people wanted to hang out. At your house. Like, dude's got a Mongoose, man. What the fuck? So that takes us to number 8, and this one's going to go. This one I would call obscure. It was glowworms.
Glowworms?
Glowworms. I don't know why. It was one of those little toys that you could get in like a dollar bin back then. It was like the cheap, and they were stupid. They were like these little plastic like figure things, and they were glow in the dark.
Okay, but they weren't worms?
So yeah, they were worms.
Oh, okay.
They were like little worm figures that had like, I don't know, like pajamas on and shit. And you like held them up to the light and they would glow. And they would glow for like 4 hours. Like whatever they were coating that shit in. And like you can Google it, it's a thing.
Yeah, I believe it.
I had a whole collection of these little fucks in my room at one point. And I don't know, like, so growing up the way I grew up, we didn't have like the G.I. Joes. We didn't have the Masters of the Universe collection. I didn't have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I knew of these things. Well, I tell you about, I did have some G.I. Joes at one point. But there was no like He-Man or Masters of the Universe. There was no Turtles. What was the other big? Thundercats. The Transformers. It wasn't really kind of a thing. Toys I had. So a lot of what you could say is toys that define the 80s or the 90s were not toys I was allowed to own or play with, right? I remember that I was given a Scottie Pippen poster at one point by a kid in the neighborhood, because he'd just gotten like either a new one or that one and a Jordan one for Christmas or whatever. So he gave me his old Scottie Pippen poster. And I remember I had to take that down off the wall and throw it away. Like, we weren't allowed to have that up. That was considered under the graven images, false idol type thing. You weren't, so like growing up, we didn't watch a lot of sports. Like there was no Sunday football afternoon. There was no basketball games. We would go to like a baseball game once in a while, but like it wasn't, I was allowed to have some baseball cards, but I wasn't really allowed to collect them per se. Like, yeah, you've got some that just, you don't need to go, very careful on what could become an obsession. Or what I would call a fan, type thing, right? So so I got like some of these like off-brand shit that no one really collected. Glowworms was one of those things, man.
That's definitely one I'm not familiar with.
So,
okay. That was your
8.
8? Okay, so my number 8 may or may not be something that you're familiar with. Pogs.
Oh, that's on the list.
Okay, so, well, you can cover it again when you get yours. But people who don't know, there are these little cardboard circles that discs, yeah, that had different images on them. Once they got more popularized, they started having like popular things on them, like Ninja Turtles and that kind of stuff. But originally they were just weird images. Some of them were just colored or whatever. Back to my neighborhood. Growing up, Fairborn, there is a place called Foy's. Are you familiar with Foy's?
Oh, Foy's, yeah.
Okay. I used to ride my bike all the way up to Foy's almost every day and go through their bin of Pogs. They also sold Slammers. Okay, so Slammers are bigger discs, sometimes in the shape of stars or whatever else, and they're metal.
They were like a heavy metal disc.
Heavy, yes. And you play the game by stacking a stack of Pogs and slightly pushing one over to have it like off the edge, and then taking the slammer and slamming it down on that. And the ones that flip over to show the image, you would keep, and whoever you're playing with would get the rest of them. That's how I played the game. I don't know if that's really how it was. You also got tubes, big green and purple tubes that would store all your Pogs in. It was amazing. But I used to go to Foy's every day and get some Pogs, and if I had some extra money, I'd buy some Slammers.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
See, my dad used to go to Foy's when he was growing up.
Shout out Foy's.
He took me there a couple times, and it was at the time it was like a dual Halloween shop that was year round / like what I would almost call toy shop, but they also had a lot of toys that no one else carried in that place. Like you could find some like really crazy shit in there. So like the only a weird action figure that I know I had, like kind of like it was about the same size of the G.I. Joes at that time. It was of the Lone Ranger that I got out of there. Oh. Because like my dad grew up watching all the westerns and this and that, and I had one VHS that had like 3 episodes, like the 3 first episodes of the Lone Ranger on it and shit. So I kind of gravitated to anything that wasn't like church related when we watched some of that stuff, because after a while there's only so many watching Moses part the Red Sea videos you can watch. And I would literally, like, when I was allowed, would watch like those 3 episodes of Lone Ranger, and this was the old black and white, the scene change was a black bar that comes across the screen that changes, it was old 50s stuff. But yeah, man, like I remember I got that little action figure from Foy's, and it was kind of the first time I kind of realized that there was a thing with collectors and stuff. 'Cause I didn't open it for probably months. I let that thing sit on my shelf, and I still wish I did let that thing sit on my shelf, because it might actually be worth something today. I have no idea, because I've never seen that again. I've been to toy shows, I've been to Comic-Con, I've never seen that figure again. Not saying that there wasn't 80 million of them printed somewhere or made, but I've never seen that one again. And I know that there's things like that are worth money, nowadays. But yeah, man, I remember Foy's. That was such a fun place. I remember that bin of Pogs, because I was allowed to go through, because you get like, what, 10 for $1?
I wonder if we ever were there at the same time.
I have no idea, dude. Like, I remember going there like twice in my childhood, because that was, like I said, in Fairborn.
Yep.
I grew up in Miamisburg. So I wasn't biking there by any stretch, but I wasn't really allowed to leave like a 4-block radius on my bike anyway. Yeah. But yeah, I do remember like my dad. That was where I got that at. That was where I first got Silly Putty. That's an old one,
Yep.
And then we'd sit there like
whoopee cushions also.
They had a lot of the prank stuff there as well, which was kind of cool, garlic gum and all that other stuff. But yeah, it was one of those things where. That was is it still around?
Oh, it is.
Is it really?
Finish what you're saying, and I'll give a cheap plug to Foy's.
Just mainly because that's nostalgia. I need to find it and go back, honestly. Like,
okay, so yes, it's still around. It started with the one little store that's you're talking about, that I'm talking about. It's still there. And then Mike Foy is the owner. He lives down the street on the corner. If you go during Halloween and sometimes even other holidays, he has the house completely decorated with these massive fucking Halloween fixtures and shit. Across the street, same thing. It's normally a big ass fucking ship with pirates and skeleton pirates and shit. Later on down the road, he ended up buying. Oh, he also had Foy's adult Halloween store down the street. and then across the street, the kids' Halloween store. He eventually bought another store over there across the street next to the kids' Halloween store, and it's the Haunted Saloon. It's only open during Halloween. At least I think it's only open during Halloween, like the month of Halloween. And you go in there, and there's a guy that is in an electrocution chair. When it first opened, you can go there, and it would do it every hour on the hour or whatever. Now it's gotten so popularized that they charge for the electrocution guy to go off, but it's wild. But that's a whole prop store. He basically owns that street, and yes, okay. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but he has so many stores on it. He basically owns the street. But yeah, Foy's is still open. It's still awesome, especially if you like Halloween stuff, because that's mainly what is there. But the store that we're talking about has masks in it, but it also has party supplies and gag gifts and all of that kind of stuff, and little toys like whoopee cushions, and probably your glowworms might be there.
I doubt that. I'd be surprised if you'd even find those anymore, honestly.
Oh, and a bunch of candy. There's a bunch of candy. It's a very tight store, if you remember.
There wasn't a lot of room to walk around.
Yeah, it still isn't.
You were kind of doing that sideways shuffle through the store, but like I remember even as a kid, it was like it was almost like an event to go there, man. It was like you just walked in and you're like, this is so cool. Like I'm sure parents are like, this is so crowded, this is bullshit, this is that, this is other. But like everything in that store just kind of had that whole. You couldn't wait to look at everything in that store. There wasn't anything bad in that store. You know what I'm saying? Like
they used to sell fish and birds back at the back. Also, I don't think they do that anymore.
Oh, really?
Because another thing from my childhood, I had this really cool like fucking rocket ship like shaped aquarium. And I bought a bunch of what called zebrafish from Foy's. It had like 20 fish in this. It was fucking awesome. But yeah, I have spent a lot of time and money at Foy's. If you're in the Dayton area, I recommend going and checking out Foy's. Just Foy's, yeah. Foy's, Fairborn, Ohio. Especially during Halloween. That's when it's really crazy. A lot of people there. But, okay.
Awesome, man.
Reminiscing.
Glowworms to Foy's toys. I like it. So... brings us number 7. Is it your turn, my turn? Oh, my turn, okay.
You started, so.
So, number 7, this would be the other probably name brand thing that I had. And I remember this was a big thing. This was a Christmas gift for me when I was a kid. But it was just a stuffed animal at the time, but it was Pound Puppies.
Okay.
If you remember the Pound Puppies.
Yeah.
Actually, the packaging was like a little doghouse that they came in. And it was just a stuffed animal, but it had the Pound Puppy like emblem on the ear and everything, and there was a whole thing. It was kind of a big push for adopting animals back then. Yep. So they had these kids' toys. They called them Pound Puppies, and they were just kind of another one of those status things. Like you have stuffed animals, but did you have the Pound Puppies or did you have the Cabbage Patch doll if you were a girl? Do you have Barbies or do you have the knockoff Barbies? Like you know. The boys really didn't have a lot of stuffed animals, but Pound Puppies was kind of that boy and girl kind of thing.
It was okay to have a Pound Puppy.
Yeah, it was okay if you had a Pound Puppy. Like you're not going to get away with a lot as a boy back then, but if you had a Pound Puppy, that was cool, you know. So.
Am I mixing this with? I remember Pound Puppies, but am I mixing those with something else, or did they roll themselves into like their own pocket or something? Like their head ducked down and it went into like a pocket in their stomach, and it was. Like this ball.
No, I think that was a different toy.
Okay, do you know what toy that is? No, if anybody knows.
Pocket Poppets or something?
It's probably Pocket something. I don't know. Okay, but yeah, Pound Puppies.
I don't remember them rolling up.
I'm probably mixing it with another later toy that came out. But yeah. My number 7, you've said it a couple times that you never had them. I had literally every one of them that they made. I unfortunately never had any of the vehicles or accessories that would come with them, but I had all of the figures, and that's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle action figures. He's looking up the Pound Puppies right now.
Pocket Popples.
Pocket Pobbles? Oh, okay.
Pocket Popples. Yeah, it was a stuffed animal that folded into itself into its own pocket.
Okay.
Yep.
I knew it was a thing. But.
So, yeah, that's kind of what they look like.
Yep, that's what I was thinking
Pocket
of.
Popples.
Okay.
I knew it was something. Yeah, that was one I did. I think my sister had one of those. I think she got one of those the same point in time that I got the Pound Puppy. Oh shit! Glowworm.
Is that what you're talking about?
That was like the big version.
Okay, so they're made by Hasbro.
I guess so. Huh. But they had little tiny versions that said about that big that were just all plastic. But this was like the take the bed version. So, anyway, all right.
Fool for the listeners, he's looking on his phone and he just found the glowworm. So.
Oh yeah, see, Pound Puppies.
Yep, I remember them. Yep.
Yep, in the little doghouse. All right. Anyway,
you guys can do the same thing. Just pull out your phones, unless you're listening on your phone. Well, you can still do it then, and look up what we're talking about.
Because the girls had Cabbage Patch, and I think was My Little Pony. I think back then.
I think so. I mean,
I want you to say it was.
yeah.
I feel like you say I remember it.
Yeah.
Because it was that, and then the girls had those what Polly Pocket.
I think that was 90s.
That they was that 90s?
Yeah.
I remember my sister had them. They carried around.
Because you remember the show Mighty Max?
Mm-hmm.
So their toys were similar to the Polly Pockets.
It was the boy version of the Polly Pocket. It was the Mighty Max. Yeah. Yeah. Because it was like a weird like figure that would open up and have things inside of it, wasn't it?
The Mighty, well, I don't know about Polly Pocket, but the Mighty Max was like a world that would open up, and then you had the little figures that would, So, not on my list though. I don't know if it's on yours, but they're not on mine.
No, it is not on my list.
What is on my list though was number 7, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle action figures.
Yeah.
And you never had any of them, so.
I did not. There were a couple kids in the neighborhood that did, and we'd sneak over to their house and play with them and watch the show and everything else. And of course, it was the whole thing that kids did back then, where you tie the string between two pieces of furniture, and you have the zip line and all that other stuff going on. You had to get a little more creative back then. But it's like, I remember sneaking away and watching the early cartoons, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and stuff. I think it's because I had so little exposure to that. Like, dude, I still vividly remember theme songs and stuff from cartoons of that era. And there was one kid who watched weird cartoons up the road, and there'd be times the few times I'd be allowed to go to another kid's house for a little while and stuff, and all we did was sit and watch cartoons or they had taped on. So I remember weird ass cartoons like Biker Mice from Mars and shit like that. I
remember that.
Street Sharks.
Oh my god, I love Street Sharks.
Stuff that I'm like, I've never heard of this, but I'm watching it anyway.
So you bring up Street Sharks. Actually, Biker Mice from Mars. Those toys are kind of hard to come by, but the Street Sharks. Was
there a toy line for those?
Yes, there was.
Okay.
And I had them, but I don't have any more. I am still a collector of things, especially things that I really liked from my childhood. I'm trying to find the Hammerhead Street Shark, and I've found it a few places. They're like $800-900.
Oh wow!
Yeah, for one figure in box, open. They're still like $300-400.
Wow.
So yeah, they had a toy line. It was kind of obscure though, so that's why they're more valuable.
Yeah,
now.
I think it was more of an obscure type cartoon. And what's funny is I have a website I go to where I can watch cartoons, anime. There's a massive library of both on there. And what I think is funny is Street Sharks is on there, and so is Biker Mice from Mars. It's all the cartoons from your childhood. You can go, if you search Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, it goes by decade, the 80s version, the 90s version, the 2000s version, So, I mean, it's kind of cool when you can, obviously I don't have any of those collectible things because when I left home, I kind of left home with bare minimum stuff. But yeah, a lot of those things are, kind of cool still. And it's nice that there's still a collectible market for some of that stuff. Though.
Oh yeah.
That people remembered it enough that they want it, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
So
not for collectors though, like myself, because the prices are crazy. But
well, I mean, just I have a pretty expansive collection of anime that just keeps going up in price. I'm like, I'm glad I have it now because I would not want to pay the prices
Right.
that they are. I mean, I'm talking about complete sets I bought for $30 or $40, which, you know, some people would be like, I mean, I've spent collector set money on movies that devaluated. and I'm talking about they're worth 10 to 12 times what I paid for them now. And some of them 20 to 40 times more than what I paid for them now. There's just a lot that's happened in that market, out of print licensing agreements falling through, and just physical copies are still something people want.
Yeah.
And, you know, like I said, I think the one that comes to mind right now that I have, I think I paid about $70 for the complete series of it. And I could sell it tomorrow in the condition it's in for $900. I'm not going to, but I could. You know, so it's kind of crazy how you see something that you valued either as a kid or something that you just enjoyed, and then you turn around the next day and go, "Holy shit! People are paying what for it?"
Yeah,
like, wow. You know, but it's. I think nostalgia plays into a lot of that. People want
Definitely.
that they will chase that feeling they had as a kid when they had it. You know, there's something about that excitement you get. Like if you had that toy as a kid and then you find it as an adult, you almost get that same excitement as when you got it as a kid again, right?
100%.
You know, that's part of the cool thing of going to like toy conventions and Comic-Cons and anime conventions. You kind of start looking around and going, oh my God, I remember the first time I watched that. I remember the first time I unwrapped that. I was like, you know, there's something about chasing that adrenaline. Mm-hmm. I don't even think that's the right thing, or whatever your happy hormone is. You know,
Dopamine? Dopamine?
Yeah, you get that dopamine hit. And there's different variations of it, but that dopamine hit that you remember that comes back to you.
Yeah.
Because I've done that. I've been walking through like toy conventions and I just stop. Like something I see just will stop me. I'm like, oh my God, I haven't seen one of those in 30 years or whatever it is. And then I'm just standing there at the table staring at it. And the guy's like, you gonna buy it or you gonna keep moving, motherfucker? You're like, no, just shut up. I'm basking in the glory of what's here. You don't understand, sit your ass in your little fucking chair. I mean,
Oh, he understands. He just wants you to buy it.
Yeah, exactly. And then you walk off and he's like, fuck you. So.
Well, before we move on, we haven't given one yet. Do you have any Mary Fuck Kills that you can think of?
Okay, so April O'Neil.
Okay, perfect.
Lioness.
Lioness.
From Thundercats.
Okay.
And I'm pulling here, bro. Just chill. Yeah, fuck it. It's come up a couple times. I say Barbie.
Barbie. Okay. Well, I was also, if you didn't have one, I was going to give April O'Neil, and then I was going to try to think of some other redheaded female cartoon characters, but you gave me Lioness for some reason. Okay. So
still.
Going to kill.
Maybe she wasn't. I don't know.
Going to kill Lioness because she's by far the hairiest of them, and we already know I don't like hair down there. So Lioness is dead. And then Barbie is way too high maintenance to marry, but she's hot enough to fuck. So I'm fucking Barbie. And then I'm going to marry April O'Neil and be friends with the Ninja Turtles.
A little bit different. I'm killing Barbie. I don't need critique that hardcore during sex. I just don't. I don't need to hear, oh my God. I've got Ken back at the Dream trailer and you're fucking doing this shit. Okay, I don't
They
need
make
that
gags for a reason, man.
shit. Well, fuck Lioness, because you just need a primal fucking rare thing once in a while. And it might be something weird on my part, but we're going there. We're just going to go there. And definitely with you, I'm marrying April. Yeah, for the same thing, man. Like, you hanging out with Ninja Turtles.
Yeah. Eat pizza all the time.
You got pizza coming all the time. You got a hot reporter chick. I may have to punch Casey in the face once or twice because fuck that dude. He's going to learn. I'm a little too close to my girl at that point, but,
I agree.
we're going to, and then I can learn jujitsu
Yeah.
at the same time. Whether it's from the Turtles or from the little rat motherfucker who goes around with them, but we're learning ninjutsu.
Splinter?
Splinter, yeah.
The little rat motherfucker.
Hey, I mean, Whatever, dude. It's a rat. I'm learning ninjutsu. Shut up. Rat nitsu. Turtle jitsu. Either way. So that takes us to number 6, man. Number 6 for me was Micro Machines. You remember Micro Machines, man? That was like miniature Hot Wheels is the best way I can describe that shit. Because we still have Hot Wheels, but I don't think we still have Micro Machines. I'm not sure you can still get those on a regular basis.
I think I've seen them in like Walmart and stuff, but they're not the same. They're not.
These
the
were
same.
like the die cast, like metal.
Yeah.
And
now they're like plastic, I think.
I remember I had the semi truck. Remember the semi truck? Both sides opened up and held like 30 Micro Machines on either side.
Yeah.
And I remember I almost had that thing filled because like I would spend my allowance money because these were like $5 a piece even back in the day. Like they were not cheap. But yeah, I had so much fun playing with those little things. God forbid you fucking step on one of the bitches in the middle of the night. That's like as bad as a Lego. I ain't kidding. And you weren't gonna break it, but it was gonna make you say every religious swear word you had in your vocabulary. You stepped on one of those things. God forbid your dad stepped because you're getting jerked out of bed in the middle of the night, get your ass whooped for leaving that thing in the hallway somewhere. But yeah, dude, Micro Machines. I've lost a couple of those in sandboxes. I'm not even gonna lie. But I don't know. Somehow, if you took a Hot Wheel and you shrank it down to this, and you could put 10 of those things in your hand as a kid. That's how small they were. When you shrink those down, they suddenly became really fucking cool.
What was it about like 90s toy companies wanting to make everything really tiny? It seemed like that was like a thing in the 90s.
You remember when phones kept getting smaller?
Yeah.
Like that's just a thing.
Now they're starting to get bigger again.
Yeah, but you know why, right?
Why they're getting bigger or why they get smaller?
Why they're getting bigger?
Why are they getting bigger?
Phones access the internet.
Yeah.
Porn.
Oh.
You don't want to be looking at a porn on a screen.
Very true. Very true. It's a battle that I suffer now.
So when porn hit the phones, the screens got bigger. No, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. When the internet hit the phones, the phones generationally started getting bigger.
But did you notice that though, the toys? There was like
there was a whole craze of like because you had like the Mighty Max, the Polly Pockets, the Micro Machines, like things kept getting smaller, like, and it was like a huge thing though, and you know it's kind of one of those things that just you're right, everything kept getting smaller.
The only thing I can think of is it cost them less to make it and they could still charge the same price.
Yeah, manufacturing from that standpoint, I could see that, where you could make say 10 Hot Wheels on a casting or whatever. You can make 110 on a freaking Micro Machines casting. You know what I'm saying? I guess. But, dude. Narrowing the list down was kind of interesting because there's a lot of other things I had like growing up, like the Spirograph. And
it's a Spirograph.
Oh, dude, it was one of those. So you had a board that you put a regular sheet of paper in.
Oh.
Just like blank paper. And
that's all you had to say. I know what you're talking about.
It was like a circle or a square, and you had these different like gears you sat in there, and you put a pin in and just went around in a circle and just created designs. You know what I'm saying? Like, wood burning kits.
I never had any of that.
I had a wood burning kit at one point. Toys people would not consider a toy now that were toys back then. I remember chemistry sets they'd hand out to kids.
Yeah.
Shrinkadinks. You remember Shrinkadinks?
Shrinkadinks?
Yes.
No.
Okay,
that one's new.
It was, okay, do you remember like if you went to the zoo and you get these little pills that you put in warm water and it would like melt the pill exterior and like a sponge of an animal would come out of it?
Vaguely. Okay.
Think opposite. So you would go buy these, it looked like this big ass fucking thing, and you would put it on a baking sheet and throw it in the oven, and the heat would make it shrink down and the details would come out, and it would be like this little tiny, like, I don't know, charm almost.
So making things small again.
Yes. And your whole house would stink because of the chemicals coming off this thing, and then when you're done, you scrape it off with a spatula, rinse it off with water, and then make your pizza rolls on that fucking biohazard of a fucking thing. I mean, yeah, dude, shrinky dinks. And then there was this like god awful acid that you could like put on a plate, not a paper plate or a styrofoam plate. It would melt that shit. I don't know what the fuck this shit was made out of. And then you like roll a straw in it, and then you would blow through it, and it would make the biggest massive bubble you've ever seen in your life. It was some kind of like weird thing I remember growing up. God, it would make your eyes water, like the chemicals coming off. I'm pretty sure I probably why I don't get sick as much as I do today. I got exposed to so much horse shit as a kid.
Very possible.
I mean, but like these are like things that I'm like, yeah, I'm not putting that on the list, but I remember it. Like sitting and trying to remember all the things, right? But then again, it's like I kind of kept with the toys you could buy, but goddamn, dude, you know how many fake battles I had with stick guns in the backyard growing up? You know,
that's true.
Like we found everything to be a toy, and that, you find somebody doing landscaping, fuck, we're throwing goddamn chunks of sod at each other because that's fun, I mean, there's so much you could do. You had the BMX bikes, the mountain bikes. So what do? You find a patch of wood, you build a ramp. That's what we did. Yeah. And then we were trying to find out how far away the closest hill was and how much speed we could get to maintain the flat distance to get the highest speed to go off the ramp on, right? Yep. There's a lot of, I remember like late 90s, the rollerblades and the street hockey came out. Like that's stuff that, I guess you could say all these honorable mentions that aren't making the list. But there was a lot of things, my 5 to 1 was all things we did outside, which was like, you've had a lot of outdoor activities. These were kind of the, my first ones were kind of like the winter months type where you kind of sat in and did your own thing. I mean, I didn't put books on the list, but I read so many books growing up as far as that goes, as a kid, like the Hardy Boys.
Remember Goosebumps? Remember Goosebumps?
I wasn't allowed to read Goosebumps, but I wasn't allowed to read Hardy Boys. And there was a whole like shelf of kids' Christian books that I read, growing up too. But I wouldn't really consider those toys in an aspect, but it did allow me to kill a lot of time. Like I remember over the winter months, I would kill $30-$40, like easily. Now these weren't like 800-900 page books by any stretch of the imagination, but I would just sit for hours and read. Like we didn't watch TV. We had Christian radio, classical radio, and whatever we busied ourselves doing. So, but yeah, man, we're halfway at the halfway point.
I haven't.
Oh wait a minute, you haven't done 6.
Yeah. Did you give your 6?
Yeah, Micro Machine.
Oh, Micro Machine. Okay. Well, my number 6 is the first electronic thing on my list. I think on both. You haven't had anything electronic, right?
Unless you're going to count Teddy Ruxpin, but yeah. No.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Actually, I not counting that. I mean, it took batteries, but
Okay. Well, this is the first thing that required you to be inside, on my list anyways. PlayStation. And this one would be later in my childhood. But once PlayStation came out, I had me a PlayStation, and I was playing that bitch all the time. So I put that under toys, and it's a gaming system, but to a kid, it's a toy. So
I was 19 when I got my first PlayStation. Now, it was still, PlayStation 2 hadn't dropped yet. But I had left home when I got PlayStation. So it wasn't not what I would consider a childhood toy. But
Fair.
It would be probably in my top 10 best purchases of all time. For multiple reasons. I think I told you the story how I got my first PlayStation. Or maybe not. I don't know. It was, so I was working at a veterinarian clinic at the time. The vet's wife took me to apply for an apartment because I couldn't just leave the house and go wherever I wanted, even though I had a car. It was my car. So I went, I applied, I signed the paperwork. They said I could move in within a week. So I started secretly trying to pack what I could at the house because I was leaving. And things had blown up with my parents really bad. So I went from being in a house with 9 people to a 1-bedroom apartment with no furniture, no food, no cooking utensils. I had like 1 bag of clothes, a pillow, and me. That was what I walked into that apartment with. I had just paid rent. I had $300 left over, so I bought general dollar store type food to put into the house and like one pot to cook whatever I could cook in. And I went into Walmart with about $200 and I set aside $50 for gas to get me to my next payday, which I knew was going to be plenty in that car. And I went into the electronics department and the kid was standing there and he was like, "Yo, can I help you?" And I was like, "I don't fucking know. I need to buy something that's not going to let me kill myself." He's like, "What do you want, like a PlayStation or something, dude?" Yeah, fine. It was a $100 PlayStation, and I think I bought a 19-inch bubble screen, like $40 TV from Walmart. And I sat on a floor in an apartment and like just played PlayStation for the next 3 weeks until I eventually somebody was throwing a couch out and I went and got it and brought it back to my place, stuff like that. It was kind of that slow build, but yeah, that was like one of the first like purchases after leaving home outside of basic essentials was a PlayStation, and I had I think Tekken 2, and that's all I played.
I was going to ask you what the first game was
for like legitimately, and then I went to GameStop in a few places and looked at kind of like their bargain bin or whatever. The second game I ever bought was Twisted Metal, and then I found a place called Buybacks, and after that, I never went anywhere else. Buybacks was a place you took your used games, they gave you a few bucks for them, turned around and sold them for a few dollars more, and they did that with games, CDs, and movies. And so that was like my media outlet, because I could go in there with 20 bucks and walk out with 5 or 6 items. So, but yeah, man, like PlayStation has always kind of had that kind of special place. I've owned every PlayStation they've ever made. The PlayStation 1, I had PlayStation 1, PlayStation 1 Slim, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 2 Slim. My daughter still has my PlayStation 3 in her room that she plays around on once in a while. And then my oldest daughter plays on the 4 and I have a 5. So it's kind of...
The only thing, I don't think I ever had a Vita. PlayStation Vita is the only
I had a PSP, but I didn't have a Vita.
I might even have a PSP now. I never really got into the handheld ones.
It wasn't... The funny part is when I lived at home. Okay, so PlayStation was not the first gaming console I had. When I lived at home, I snuck out one day and bought a Game Boy Color.
Yeah.
It was like, I think it were $100 or something. And it was just something I'd save money up on. I bought a Game Boy Color and it came with a Pokemon game. Never knew what fucking Pokemon was. Didn't have any clue. But I would sit up at night in my room, because at the time my room was in the basement and my parents' room was upstairs on the first floor, so it wasn't like I was going to get walked in on. And I would literally sit up for 3 hours a night and just sit there and, because it had you could plug it into the wall. You didn't have to put batteries in it if you were, close enough or whatever. And I would just sit there at night and just play on a Game Boy Color. And kept that thing hidden in my room for probably a year and a half. Easily a year and a half before. And then that was actually one of the few things that they found that sparked my moving out phase. The two biggest things that drove that conversation to where I was like, yeah, I'm moving out. I'm done. Was oddly enough a a VHS tape of WrestleMania 2000 and a Christian rock CD. Those were the two things that was quote unquote the straw that broke the camel's back in my situation. Because we're taking the TV out of the house. I was like, don't even fucking bother. I'll just move out. And I remember vividly. My mom was, "Well, I'm breaking these." I'm like, "No, if you do, I'm going to have to call the police. That's my property. I bought it. If you bought it, that'd be your right. But that's my property. I bought it." And that was like one of the first times I think my mom ever had anyone in our family stand up to her. And that just devolved into one of the loudest, I think, fights, arguments we've had in our house up to that point.
2 questions. Was it broken and were the cops called?
No.
On both answers?
No on both answers.
Okay. But you moved out?
Yeah, I was gone 3 days later.
Okay.
I already had signed papers for the apartment, and it was like 3 days before I was just going to be gone. I didn't really know how to have the conversation, tell him I was moving out, and it just kind of happened.
Back to the conversation
in that
starters.
instance. I don't think the awkward conversation started. What is this? I guess that could be depending on what you're talking about. In that situation, my mom was holding a Rebecca St. James CD in WrestleMania 2000, which did have a China and Trish Stratus on the cover, so they weren't really what my mom would call appropriately dressed. But yeah, so I don't know if that was a good story or a bad story.
Yeah.
Or how we go down this particular caveat, but PlayStation's how we got down that particular caveat. But yeah,
PlayStation was my number 6.
So I would say my first actual console was definitely PlayStation, but not my first gaming experience was on Game Boy Color.
Game Boy.
And I do know, God damn it, they took that because I didn't have it when I moved out. I couldn't find it.
Uh-oh.
I mean, fuck it, it was 30 years ago at this point. I mean, I don't really care. But I you know what? It never crossed my mind, where's my Game Boy? I mean, obviously bigger problems once I was trying to figure out where I was going to sleep, but still. Interesting enough. So we got it all. And, you know, here I am years later, still being inappropriate and everything else. Yeah. So 5, we are halfway through, man. Halfway there. Number 5 for me was obviously lower on your list, but it was Pogs. I remember having the Pogs, and I remember, my Slammer. I'm trying to figure out how to describe it. It was like a curved gear. Do you remember that one at all? It was like had those tines, like 8 tines that came off around it, like a gear almost, but they were like curved as they came off of it. Yeah, dude, I remember that was like that inside outside game type thing, but always had to be played outside on a lot of front porches is where we played that.
Yeah.
To try to make, because every time we went out, you'd smack that thing, the wind would blow, or you'd fucking miss and slam it on your foot or something like that. Those slammers were actually not. You could buy them with some real weight to them. Like those were not always the, you know. And oddly enough, the thing that really brought Pogs back around was Squid Game. So
Brought back around? That's
like in my mind.
Oh,
in
okay.
my mind.
I was like, I didn't know it was a thing again.
No, I don't think it's a thing. But have you seen Squid Game?
Yeah.
Okay, so the 2 envelopes where he has to slam one down and flip the other one over. I was like, oh my God, it's like a weird version of Pogs. Like that. I don't know why that triggered that off in my brain, but then that triggered off a whole downward spiral of all the different Pogs I had. Mm-hmm. You know, because it's odd how I can still go down and remember all the different designs.
Oh,
and
I can too.
I had some of the matte backs, and then you had the glossier, I guess you holographic crystallized backs on them, and then, you know, everything on the front. I had Pogs. I had no idea what fucking character was on the front of that thing.
Me too.
I had no idea. And like later, I realized, hey, I had a Pog with that character on it, or I had this, or I had that. You know, I didn't even realize it was a thing at the time. It was just, oh, that's kind of cool. I just pull it out. You know, I would go into Foy's or other places, just grab a handful and put it on the counter. You know, they count it out. You know, $2. Okay, cool. Yeah, dude, that was good times. But yeah, Pogs was my number 5.
All right. Well, I remember so many different ones, but probably the one that stands out the most is the Mortal Kombat emblem. Mm-hmm. I had a Pog that was the Mortal Kombat, and that's, yeah. And then I started getting like X-Men. Like I was saying, when it first started, it was more of just weird designs and that kind of stuff. And then as they got a little more popularized, they started to get rights to put cartoons and other things on there. So, yeah.
That went for a while, too. That got big.
It seemed like it, but then all of a sudden it went away.
I want to say easy 5 or 6 years that was on top. Or, you know, at a current status type thing.
I know I collected them for a couple of years.
What took place? Was it Pokemon cards? Or what the hell? I don't know.
Kids not wanting to play with toys. I don't know. Let's see.
Nintendo hit in 1986 and Pogs went away.
I had them in Fairborn, and then we moved to Wilmington when I was in 5th grade. I remember bringing tubes to class for recess and introduced Wilmington to Pogs because they didn't know what the fuck it was. And then after that, I don't remember ever playing with them again after 5th grade.
Huh.
So.
I mean, Nintendo came out and you were like the Mario Brothers was big.
I think it was already out though. I'm pretty sure Nintendo
Was it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure, that whole game was based on you working really hard to get Mario laid. I mean, that was just a whole. God damn it! She's in another castle. Gotta go over here.
Speaking of getting laid, why don't we do a marry, fuck, kill? Unfortunately, I don't have any to base off of the topic, but I do have something that's. We record 2 episodes
per recording session. Yes.
So today is Super Bowl Sunday when we're recording the last episode that
not be Super Bowl Sunday when it drops.
Yes, but the reason
a month or two after.
The reason I bring that up is my marry, fuck, kill is Annie Agar. This person you introduced me to. It's the girl that has a bunch of different takes and stuff on NFL. On her TikTok, where what all that kind of shit.
The one that does the NFL meeting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh my God. Shout out to her. She's funny as shit.
Okay. But here's the catch for my marry, fuck, kill. Annie Agar, but no matter what, she talks NFL. So if you're fucking her, whatever she is going on in the NFL, she's going to be talking about it while you're fucking her. Same thing as marriage. Anytime you try to have a conversation with her, she's going to answer you talking about NFL. Same thing as if you're killing her. She's going to be talking about NFL until you kill her. All right, so Annie Agar, but no matter what, she talks NFL. Paris Hilton, but one night in Paris is always playing somewhere in your vicinity.
Got that grainy ass piece of shit. Okay.
Chanel West Coast, but Rob Dyrdek can always be heard commentating on everything you do. So there's your 3.
Oh my. Why do I know all 3 of those people? I should not. Oh my God. I went through a phase where I watched Robin Big a lot. Mainly because preference. Rob's from Kettering. Mm-hmm. And when I worked at Harbor Freight, a guy I worked with lived right around the corner from his parents. And I actually have been to Dyrdek's parents' house. And Rob wasn't there, but I've met his parents. Super fucking cool people, dude. Like, just down to earth, super cool people. And I watched a lot of Robin Big at the time. For some reason, I thought it was a cool show. So by proxy, I watched a little bit of Ridiculousness, so I know who Chanel is. Okay, we're killing Chanel. I don't want some bad rap lyrics happening while I'm trying to do some shit. I just don't.
But having Rob Dyrdek commentating on everything doesn't bother you?
I don't need that in my life either. I really don't. No, I just know all the way around on that whole scenario.
Yeah.
I guess I'm fucking Paris because whatever.
And while you're fucking her, One Night in Paris is playing in your vicinity.
I can barely see that video as it is. Well, the first half is all in night vision. The second half, anyway, I'm not going to commentate on that video. It's not a great video. I actually paid for that video from a guy who ran a video store, and I was so fucking disappointed. That was a huge fucking waste of $25. That was anyway. So, yeah, I'm marrying an NFL girl. I don't give a shit. She can talk about the NFL all she wants. I'm not gonna hear it. That woman is, she's beautiful, hands down.
Okay, mine's a little different. I'm going to kill Paris Hilton, but as always, I'm gonna fuck her till she dies. Okay, and then I'm going to fuck Annie Agar while she talks about NFL. And the only reason I'm going to fuck her instead of marrying her is I do like sports and I do like the NFL, but I like NBA more. I want to talk NBA. I don't want to talk NFL all the time. So I couldn't marry her. So therefore I'm going to marry Chanel West Coast, which I find attractive. Music is whatever, but I find her attractive. So I'll marry her and have Rob Dyrdek commentate on everything I do.
I mean... Your fantasy, bro. Live in it. Your fantasy, live in it. I don't know what to tell you. It's not where I want to sit, but okay. So we're number 4, man. We're top 4 right now.
No, 5.
Oh, you haven't given your 5.
Oh, did I? Okay, sorry.
5 for me was Pogs.
5 was Pogs. Okay, yeah. So I meant to do that before we got to 5. But
Because usually you give yours and then okay, all right, cool.
all right, so my number 5
Number 5 intermission.
is Hasbro and Mattel WWF/WWE action figures. This again is another thing I had so fucking many of. Younger, it was been the Hasbro, which are probably like 3-4 inch figures that didn't have any articulation at all, except for like maybe Jake the Snake's arm would go all the way around or some shit. So I had those, and then later Mattel started making action figures, and those articulated more. And I still have
Mattel was mainly into
hundreds of them.
Barbie and the girls side of things for a long time, weren't they? Or
Yeah, I mean they still are, but they had
yeah,
boy stuff as well.
yeah,
So
yep. See, my childhood was segmented. What I say is before Colton, after Colton. So up until I was about 8, about 7 was kind of before Colton era. And I remember watching wrestling at like my uncle's house and my grandma's house. And at the time, it was always on Saturday morning. It wasn't a Monday night, Friday night, Thursday night, whatever it was. You know, SmackDown's moved all over the place. But Monday Night Raw has always been Monday Night Raw. And you always had Saturday morning was wrestling time, especially at my grandma's house. And then you, like once a month there was Saturday Night Main Event, or maybe once a year or something like that. But I remember like that would be where it was on like NBC or something. It'd be like an hour-long show. It was Saturday Night Main Event, and like the big stars of wrestling came in for that. And then you had your pay-per-views once cable hit for like WrestleMania, and you know, I think for a long time it was just WrestleMania, and then they started adding more pay-per-views in as things went along because you had Royal Rumble and everything else. But kind of fell out of it really before I got into that action figure stage. So I never really had any of the action figures. Like I knew some of them, like walking through stores and stuff, but never owned them as far as that goes. But I remember seeing, like at one time, you could buy a whole, at the time it was WWF, like the ring. And you could have all the figures that, you know, went with the ring and everything else. And I always thought it was cool, but it never really, you know, we got out of the whole wrestling thing once we kind of didn't associate with a lot of family, extended family anymore. But yeah, I remember watching it, and it wasn't until like 18, 19 years old that I kind of got back into it, like for the short time I was in college, and then after that when I eventually got cable at my apartment and everything else. So good times. Good times.
I still have action figures, still buy them. AEW is now a thing, and Jazzwares makes their, so I buy their figures. I don't play with them, I just collect them.
Now we're on to the top 4. And number 4 for me was called a Skip It. I would call Skip It a lazy guy's jump rope. But it was to put this in, it was like a half rotating, oversized door handle almost on one side, and it had a long plastic strip that came out to a plastic loop on the other side, and you would put that over one foot, and then you would do this weird hoedown dance, so it would spin around and you would skip it with your other foot. And it had a counter on it for how many times it would rotate a full rotation. And it was always one of those things, could you max out and reset the counter? Now, this counter was 3 digits, so you would have to consecutively skip 1,000 times to reset it. And I just remember that used to be like competitions. This was like, there was a family that brought a bunch of these to church. So after church, the kids would be in the parking lot seeing who could max the counter out the fastest. After a while, it would start out, could you max it out? And then it started out, who can max it out faster? And of course, you only had the amount of time to get your turn in before your parents were ready to leave. So, but yeah, there was some hours out there spent, you know.
So the church kids were in shape.
Skipping. Yeah. You know. I'd be able to outrun the leaders.
Oh, Lord.
I don't think God was any part of that.
So that was 4?
That was 4.
Okay. Another one, you said that you didn't have, and I had fucking so many of these things. G.I. Joes. I didn't have very many of like the vehicles and stuff. I remember I did have this gigantic fucking hovercraft, which was one of the coolest fucking things as a kid. But I had so many G.I. Joes. And one of my favorite things to do with them, you never had them, but are you at least familiar with them? Like, have you ever had them in your hand?
I had a couple.
Oh, you had a couple, okay.
I think they were like secondhand.
Okay.
So I had the original Sergeant Slaughter.
Okay.
And I also had one of the guys who was in like a snow camo. And those were the only
Snowstorm.
two.
That's terrible, I know.
I always saw one in the store I wanted, but at that point we weren't allowed to have G.I. Joes, and that was Snake Eyes. I always thought that would be the coolest one ever to have. But yeah, I'm definitely familiar.
Well, one of my favorite things to do, because I had so fucking many of them, was on the back. It's got a little screw. You unscrew that, and the chest part comes apart, and there's a rubber band that's holding the legs onto it and the arms and stuff. I used to swap things, like make custom G.I. Joe figures, and I would have hundreds of just mixed up fucking G.I. Joes that I created myself that I loved.
Now, see, I always took string, tied them to like plastic shopping bags, and would sling them in the air, so parachute it. You know what I'm saying? And then you have like your G.I. Joe parachuting down over here and stuff. Like that was kind of like my go-to with those things, you know, whatever. Until I finally got a slingshot, and then I was really getting them higher up in the air. But yeah, man, I had a couple, but I'm pretty sure. I don't ever remember taking them out of a package. I'm pretty sure they were secondhand because they're pretty worn. By the time I got done playing with them, they're very worn of everything that went along with that. But yeah, man, I remember I always wanted to get as many of them as I could. And Snake Eyes was always. It seemed like there was never many of those in the store. So when you ran across one, it was like really cool. It was like he had the dual swords on the back, I think. And yeah, I always thought that was cool because I always knew there was G.I. Joes and then there was Cobra. And I was like, man, I want to get all the G.I. Joes, and then I want to get all the Cobras, and then, you know, you could have that whole like dual army thing going on, you know. And I remember the cartoon. Never watched it, but I remember the cartoon. Yeah. I remember, you know, seeing like advertisements and stuff on it, you know. But yeah, that was one. If I have to say, there's a regret toy. I kind of regret I didn't have, or wasn't able to like really go all the way in on that particular one. But if I remember right, those were kind of on the expensive side as toys go, too. Because they were kind of more of the mainstream.
I don't know. I feel like they were like $3.99, $4.99, or whatever for just a figure.
For 1980,
I guess that was
probably, yeah.
But now, those same figures, especially if you have them in box.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure they're worth.
Yeah, it's stupid.
All kinds of amounts of money. I'm sure you're hundreds and hundreds. Some of them probably thousands.
Yes, it's crazy.
I mean...
And of course, mine are all fucking.
It's like one of the guys we
torn
worked
apart.
With,
so
he was at a nostalgic toy place somewhere down in Kentucky, and he sent me a picture of the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle bus, still in box with all 4 turtles like around it. The guy wanted like $1,200 for the set. It was like I was like, holy hell, dude, are you kidding me? So, yeah, man, I get it. I completely get it. I kind of wish I had better like fonder memories of those toys, but I don't. You know, fortunately. But it's cool to talk to people who did, who actually had owned a bunch of them like that, because it seemed like that would have just been, especially in that era of time, that had to have been just hours upon hours of just fun.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So, all right, we're at the top 3. So these are probably the top 3 are probably the toys I spent the most amount of time either risking death with, or it was just like my go-to pastime type shit. And this one was, even as a kid, I'm pretty sure these were frowned upon. But I found an old set in my grandparents' garage, and my grandpa was like, yeah, fuck it, take it, have it, you know? And we just had it for years on end. And when I'm talking about the old set, I'm talking about the metal Okay, it's lawn darts. Let's just go there. It's lawn darts. If you remember the lawn darts, most people don't. I think they're illegal now. I don't think or if you can buy them, there's something where they're very. You could hunt elk with the lawn darts I had. Okay, like these things. I don't know who thought the best idea was throw a metal dart that's like a foot long in the air and see where it lands. I know the point of the game was it was kind of like a weird innovation of horseshoes. You had the two rings that you would kind of pitch back and forth. Why you would want to stand there while someone's throwing a sharp ass lawn dart where you're at, I'm not sure why. But as kids, oh damn, we would go for distance on these motherfuckers, dude. Like, could you get this over the garage, across the alley, and in the neighbor's yard type distance, right? And these things were built aerodynamically to fly as pretty much as far and as hard as you wanted to with these suns. Here's how bad it got. Where I grew up, there's our street that's off of Main Drag. Main Drag that runs through Miamisburg goes down farther south. It's called Dixie Highway, Old 25. There's 100 different names for it depending on where you're at. Where I was at, it was two-lane roads, either direction. So our brilliant minds and childhood-like innocence, my house sat on a street, there was an alley, there was another house that faced the main road. So we would stand behind that house, wind up, let's see if we could go over the house, clear all 4 lanes in a median, and drop the dart on the other side of the road in the grass. How we didn't impale a car.
Oh, you never did? Wow.
No, I don't know how. We have found that thing in the median. We have found it laying in the road. How we never put that through the roof of a car, I'll never know. Because those darts would have gone through the roof of a car. I'm not kidding. These were like a deadly fucking spike. How we never impaled each other, I'll never know. Because we did one game, and the dumbest fucking thing ever, where you would throw the dart straight in the air, grab the hoop, and try and get the dart to pass back through the hoop on the way to the ground.
Imagination.
So just so everyone listening knows, when they tell you Gen X kids are some of the craziest, toughest sons of bitches on the planet, this is why. This was our idea of fun. You were either passing it through the hoop or catching that bitch in the skull. One of the two. This was our game time, people. Like, this is what we did for fun.
My number 3 is not quite as dangerous. Actually, it's nowhere near as dangerous. It goes back to the action figures. X-Men and Spider-Man. Every time we went to a store, I would ask my mom, my grandma, whoever I was with, to buy me one. So I had a very massive collection once again. Like I said, I was spoiled. But I still have some of the X-Men and Spider-Man characters that I had when I was a kid. I still have them. Don't have any in box. Again, they are some that can be worth money. But one thing that I was really into wrestling, so one thing that I always loved doing with my action figures was making them wrestle. The Spider-Man figure was skinny and had the most articulation. Like his foot was one that articulated everything. So I'd have him, and then Omega Red was a character from X-Men that I loved his figure. So he was always like my champion, because I'd have like mutant champions or whatever. But those two I had so many good battles with. When I wasn't doing that though, a lot of like the X-Men and Spider-Man playtime, I guess you could say, was me going outside, my friend getting like half of my collection and me having the other half. He would go down his house, a couple of houses down, and set all of his up in his front yard, and I would set mine all up in my front. I have a tree in the front yard, so it would be my base or whatever. And then we'd get done setting them up. It'd be nighttime. We'd go inside. But that's what I did. I loved setting up my X-Men and Spider-Man figures or whatever, and then playing with them as wrestling figures.
I used to have bags of the plastic Green Army Men.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't do anything but set up battle scenarios, I think. And then it was done, you scrape them all in the bag, and do it again tomorrow.
I did the same thing.
Like, it was kind of one of those things where that was the whole fun, the point of it. That was the whole point, was just to like set them up. and then you played the whole battle out in your head, and that was it. You just took them all down, and that was done.
Yep.
Yeah, man, I remember that. That was
Imagination. That's what.
Yeah.
That's what's missing from today's youth. I hate to sound like the old fuck, but like, there's no imagination. There's no going outside and playing. It's.
Yeah, it was just little plastic armament, but I would like set them down. I'm like, you know, it's the bazooka guy. He wins everything. You know, yeah, the green grenader. You know, I mean, all that stuff. Yeah, it was always one of those. Yeah, man, imagination. We could. That's why we were trying to catch lawn darts. And, you know, it was, maybe that was a lack of imagination. I'm not really sure, man. Wow. Yeah. Yeah, not quite as deadly, but still probably more fun. I don't totally get the set everything up, and then it's like, oh well, it's dark. Gotta go inside. So
Now you could combine the two. You could set them all up and then use your lawn dart from a couple houses down to see if you knock any of them over.
it's a mortar attack.
Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't have a whole bunch of action figures. I'd be tying them bitches to lawn darts. Be like, let's see how this goes.
Yes. That actually sounds fun.
I actually remember a kid had a bunch of old action figures. I don't remember what they were. But we got our hands on what I would call the giant bottle rockets. Like, you had the normal bottle rockets, and then you had the bottle rockets where the propellant engine was about twice the size of an adult thumb. So like one of those big round ones.
Yeah.
So I think it was his dad who had a bunch of them left over from the 4th of July. And he went and grabbed them in matches. And he brought out all of his old action figures he didn't want to play with anymore. And for war crimes, they got strapped to a bottle rocket and sent into the stratosphere and blown up. And I'm telling you, the aerodynamics of the first action figure on a bottle rocket, it curves weight-wise really hardcore off the launch. And I'm pretty sure one blew up under a car at one point.
Oh my.
So we had to go with rubber band weight, action figure weight, like disbursement. So you needed like one on each side with a really tight wrapped rubber band to get it to fly up and straight. And then at one point we were rubber banding more than one together and then 3 of them so that we could, you know, get the... I guess we were solving physics issues at that point in time.
You guys were using your brains.
When those things went off,
Yeah.
we learned really quick, there's a shower of plastic that comes back down.
Shrapnel.
And the first time
Toy
we
shrapnel.
sent one up and it blew up, we were like, huh. And then we heard a rain of plastic on his garage roof. And we went, get another one. Like, that was cool.
Yeah.
And I remember how excited we were when just the head fell at our feet. The cheers of a blown up beheaded action figure was disturbing, to say the least. But, you know, that's what we did for fun. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, all right, number 2, man, we're closing in on that Dragon Den again. Number 2 is, for me, was the Daisy Red Ryder BB gun.
Daisy Red Ryder BB gun?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not.
Have you ever seen A Christmas Story?
I think so, but
That's all that kid wanted for Christmas.
Oh, okay.
Remember?
Oh, okay.
I had. It wasn't the Daisy Red Ryder. It was a Daisy BB gun. It wasn't the Red Ryder edition.
Okay.
But
Now, when you say BB gun, are you talking about actual, like it shot BBs, or are you talking about the kind that just made the sound?
no, actual BBs.
Oh.
Actual.
Never had one when I was a kid.
Yes, actual BBs. So, after I got in trouble for shooting glass containers out of people's recycling bin, the guy who owned he would work in a garage, kind of cat a corner from our house across the alley, and he would work on a lot of other people's cars. He was kind of like that neighborhood shady tree mechanic, but he was really good at what he did. He rebuilt transmissions for a living. he would throw me all of his empty beer cans, and I would sit those up in the backyard and just sit there and shoot beer cans with that BB gun for, I don't know, hours on end. Because I could save up like $10. And you could go to, I think it was Walmart at the time, because I think Walmart was finally in the area. And for like $10, you get 5,000 BBs in a plastic container, Daisy BBs, right? And it was one of those where the barrel of the gun ran through and the outer barrel of the gun was hollow, and you could pour like 300 BBs in that, and you just kept clink, clink, and all day long I just buried BBs in beer cans. Like, no one in my family drank, and the rule was, fine, if he gives you the can, you can shoot it, but then you have to go put it back in his trash, because they did not want anyone thinking that we drank in our house. So, yeah.
If you were an entrepreneur, you would have taken those beer cans into recycling.
And then got more money to buy more BBs, but at the time. And then I used to go over, we lived right next to a river. So then it kind of became a game to go and throw an empty can upriver and try and see how many times you could shoot it before it got out of range downriver. I wasn't really thinking about like the littering aspect of that at all. Bonus points if you shot it up enough and it sank. I mean, it really was not like a conservation preservation thing. So I was a kid, people. I don't do that now. I wouldn't do that now. And that was fun until you realized you could skip a BB across the top of the water. And then we'd see how far across the river water we could skip a BB, which eventually devolved into 3 guys in the neighborhood had the same BB gun, and we started shooting each other. So it just...
That's probably why my mom never bought me one, because that's probably the first thing. I would have jumped right to that and would have been a problem. So,
like, thank God we never, even as kids, because with the BB gun, the first thing we heard from our parents, don't shoot your eye out, right? Like, so I remember like when we first started having the BB gun wars, the first rule was you have to shoot them from like the chest down. You're not allowed to shoot them. Like, we put an eye out, we're never going to be able to do this again. Our worry was if we put an eye out, we'd never be able to do this again. Not that someone's running around with one eye. It was they're going to take away the fun of shooting each other with a BB gun. Hey, I'm not really sure why we called it fun, because them fuckers hurt. I'm just saying, like, I don't know how many welts. And thank God it wasn't the expensive BB guns that were 10 pump. You could actually 10 pump air. It was air pressure, and it was like a pumping system, and the more pumps you gave it, the stronger it went. And it was these things were so strong. If you 10 pumped them, you were putting the BB into someone. It wasn't going to bounce. Like, so it actually got to the point a couple kids had those, and we were like, yeah, if you don't get a different BB gun, no, because we wouldn't trust them to do one pump and shoot. They would be like clack clack clack, bap, you know. I mean, and literally from like 6 pumps up, it could actually bury into your skin. And you go 10 pumps, you could really do some.
Good Lord.
You know.
Y'all ever heard of Nerf guns?
we used what was on hand, damn it. And Nerf wasn't a huge thing at that point, I don't think. It might have been coming around, but like not an extreme amount of kids in our neighborhood had them as far as that goes. I mean, it was cool, but grab the BB gun, you know, let's do it the right way type deal. So number 2 is definitely that Daisy Red Ryder, man. I always wanted the Red Ryder. I had like the other version that wasn't Red Ryder. Red Ryder just had like a emblem on it and like some leather tassels that hung off of it for the most part. That was about all the only difference that it really was.
Okay. Well, for my number 2, you're not going to relate because you already said that your first one was PlayStation. Mine, well, this isn't my first one either. I had an Atari. But the first one that I really remember playing, Sega Genesis.
Oh, wow, not Nintendo.
Yeah, nope. I was a Sega.
You went right into the Sega stage.
Sega. I went from, I had an Atari where I played Frogger to Sega Genesis where I played Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
And Altered Beast.
That was where Mortal
Sonic.
Kombat debuted, wasn't it?
Yep.
It was on Sega as far as, because it was Sega game.
I never had a Nintendo until way, way later after, I think even PlayStation came out. Or maybe before PlayStation. But I bought a Super Nintendo. Well, I was given a Super Nintendo because I wanted the game Killer Instinct. That's the only game that I ever had or wanted to play on Super Nintendo.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, it was always Sega for me, and then PlayStation after that. So my number 2, I've spent countless hours playing
Now,
Sega Genesis.
Where I've done comedy at in Brickies,
Mhm.
there's a pizza shop right next door to that. It's now called P3's. Growing up, it was called Pappy's Pizza Palace. And I used to ride my bike up there because he still had like 6 arcade machines in that place. And it was still like a quarter to play or whatever. So I would go up and cash. All the kids that came in, you could just throw a couple bucks on there and he'd just hand out quarters and you go play, whatever. But there was the Mortal Kombat machine in there, and there was the Simpsons game, which is the one I played the most. The 4-player, like, huge board Simpsons game. And at one point in time, he got rid of the Simpsons game and he brought in the 4-player Turtles game.
Okay.
And I remember putting a lot of time in on that.
Yeah.
And it was so like my early gaming experiences were on like the big stand-up arcade games that was found in like pizza joints and other things because we didn't really. There was an arcade at Dayton Mall. There was like an actual really nice arcade upstairs in the Dayton Mall. I was never allowed to go in there. So these are all things I had to be like, I'm going on a bike ride. No, I'm going up there and cashing out a couple dollars and playing video games. But yeah, man, like I said, so when I'm up there doing comedy, I'm like, man, I was next door as a kid playing arcade games and it's just kind of cool how it all kind of runs together in that aspect. But yeah, like I never owned the consoles until I moved out, but I did do a lot of sneaking out to play different things. Half the time I didn't even know what I was playing. I just knew it was fun.
Yeah.
I knew The Simpsons was a TV show because a lot of people would talk about it like around and things like that, but I never watched an episode until I was probably 20. But yeah, played the shit out of the Simpsons game and the Turtles game. So, all right, man, it's time to slay that toy dragon. top number 1. So,
Another Mary Fuck Kill before we get to it.
yeah, let's go.
Oh, you want me to give it? You got one.
Let's see here. So, there's really nothing to pull from the whole like list of stuff, man. I don't really know a lot of the. I would almost want to try and pull from our list of toys, but there's not really a decent
Teddy Rups.
Oh God, dear Lord, that would be a violating a teddy bear in a corner. Never went that low. Never got that low. But that is rough.
My number 3 was X-Men and Spider-Man characters, so you can pick different X-Men if you want.
All right, Jubilee,
Okay.
Mary Jane, since you said X-Men and Spider-Man, and I'm trying to think of this one. You know what? Felicia. She knows Black Cat from Spider-Man.
Okay. Jubilee is the most annoying out of those 3. And the most annoying X-Men character anyways. Plus I'm not even sure if she's 18. So we'll kill Jubilee. And then
See, I would have said the Dazzler, but I don't know if you'd know who that is.
yeah, I knew the Dazzler is.
Really? Okay.
We would use the Dazzler instead of something?
No. Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Usually when I mention like a more obscure X-Men like that, they're like, who?
No,
Like,
my X-Men and Spider-Man knowledge is pretty deep. I mean, there's some that I'm like, huh? But okay. Yeah, killing Jubilee, I would fuck Mary Jane, because I'm not like a super redhead fan like you are. Might have something to do with the fact my mom's a redhead. But, so, I would just fuck Mary Jane, and then
Makes the last podcast so much weirder.
and then I would marry Felicia. What's Felicia's last name?
I don't remember.
Harding keeps coming in my head, but I
Could
don't
be
think
Felicia
that's-
Hardy, actually.
Okay, I just wanted to know what it was. So yeah, I would marry Felicia. She's blonde, right? Am I thinking of the right person? After I just said my knowledge
she
is
wears the white wig, don't she?
okay.
Or is she white-haired?
Felicia is the one I'm marrying. I'm fucking Mary Jane and killing Jubilee. How about you?
See, I'm kind of torn on that a little bit. We're marrying Mary Jane. We'll just get that out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
She's that kind of girl next door who's down for some excitement too. So I mean, I'm cool with that. But let's, man. See, I got to think because now that you made the weird comment about Jubilee's age, it changes so much. Because like. Can you only imagine what, like, I don't know. I can only imagine getting a hand job from her, be like getting a hand job with Pop Rocks or something. I don't, but now that's just weird to say because now I don't know if she's, all right. I guess we're going to have to kill Jubilee. Sorry, I don't know how old you are. I don't remember. And that just got weird. Well, originally I was going to be like, bye, Felicia, but no, I can't do that now.
We can look it up.
Damn.
You'll be see how old Jubilee is. I mean, she's probably of age now.
Well, yeah, 50 years later. Now, anyway, yeah, so I guess we're offing her, and I'm taking a night with the Black Cat. Felicia Hardy.
Okay.
That's, man. It's going to be like a pop rock hand job. Might be fun, but, no. Not if they're underage. I still have, I guess there's still a line, even in the hypothetical world for me.
So what's your number one?
All right, so the number one is not dangerous, doesn't injure you, but it's one that I had a lot of fun with, man, and it was one that I actually remember spending like $60 of my own money, and I probably had 5 or 6 variations of this. It was the Super Soakers.
Oh shit. Okay.
Now, for those who don't either, if you're of the younger generation, you probably don't even have a goddamn idea what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about a porn site. I'm not talking about anything crazy.
If you search it now, it probably will be a porn
yeah,
site.
it might be a porn thing now. But the one I'm referring to that I actually spent my own, saved, I'm talking saved a long time to get this, particular Super Soaker. It held 4 gallons of water. This squirt gun, and that's what it was. It was a squirt gun, and you would sit there and you had a pump handle to pressurize this thing, and you got good enough pressure, these things would shoot 60, 70 feet. You got some distance with these things. But this one had a shoulder strap to carry the weight type thing. It had 3 tanks on the top of it that you filled, a reserve tank on the back. You look like Rambo carrying an M60 outside with this thing, man. You're running up everyone's water bill filling this thing up type shit. And you talk about in the summer, as kids outside, when you were allowed, you had those water fights, man, and you were bringing the best you had to that fight,
Mm-hmm.
And it was always, you always walked out with the best squirt gun you had and as many water balloons as you could strap to yourself because those were the grenades.
Yep.
And that's just how it was. But I'm telling you, man, some of the coolest, funnest, playing army or water tag or anything else running around the neighborhood, that goes to the Super Soaker, man. I remember taking those on vacations or taking them anywhere. It didn't matter. You were you had to unscrew the tanks and fill them, and then hold the gun a certain way to screw them back in because you wanted to keep all the water. But those things held gallons at one point, gallons of water, and those things were heavy. Like when they're putting shoulder straps on squirt guns, like this was a serious thing.
Yeah, they don't make them like that anymore. Like
No.
If you go look for a fucking squirt gun, it's little cheap crap. The biggest one that you can find like may hold like a gallon of water. And they don't squirt very good. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, and
They're-
but I remember
Again,
like,
kids don't play outside, so maybe that's what happened. There's not a market for it anymore.
But I at one point you could buy like Target packs for these
Yeah.
things where you could like hang them in trees and like
Yep.
stuff like that. Like yeah, it was one of those things, man. Like it was huge.
I feel like maybe I'm just imagining this, but I feel like I had one that the water hose literally connected to the top of it, so that you could be like water coming. You like turn on the water, fill it while you're fucking. Like I said, I could be imagining that, but I feel like I had one that had a direct connect to the water hose.
I mean, yeah, possibly. It wouldn't surprise me if that wasn't something they offered back then, because
Yeah.
those things got, and that was another thing in the neighborhood, man. Kind of like what you were talking about with the bikes. The kids who had the mongoose bikes, so they're, when it came down to water gun fights, the kids with the biggest super soakers. I want them on my team. Like that was where a lot of that, it was almost like a status symbol for a kid in a way. Like what super soaker were you coming down with, It was a lot of fun,
100%.
man. There was so much. Your cool factor was based off the size of the squirt gun you were carrying. That's it,
Size matters.
In that one, yeah, definitely. Yeah, dude, there was so much fun you could have just in that scenario. It's like, I kind of wish I would have kept that. Probably broke it at some point.
Yeah.
Definitely broke it at some point. But it was, dude, there was so much fun.
I need to make them again. I really do.
You have a bunch of adults out there like, I can't run anymore. Fuck it.
All right. Well, that leaves me with my number one. And mine, I still have to this day. It's currently sitting in my bedroom, actually. I planned on handing it down to, I did. I've handed it down to my kids. But it's in my room because it needs some work done to it. But I got it when I was 1 year old from my grandmother's mother, what I refer to as Nanny. And I've kept it. When we're in Tornado Alley, if you are from this area, you know what I mean. So there's a season of the year that there's always watch out for tornadoes. Well, anytime there was a tornado warning or watch or anything, I would grab this toy, and it would be the only thing that I would care about. If we went down to the basement, I made sure I had it. And yes, I still fucking do that now. If there's a tornado warning, I'm grabbing this thing. It's a teddy bear. It's called it Teddy. I don't know what brand it is. It's just a brown teddy bear. It's probably like, what would you say? What is that? 2 feet? One
They
and
were
a half?
like
I don't
18
know.
inches, 18 to 24 inches, somewhere in there.
Yeah. I loved this thing. I slept with it. I don't care if people made fun of me. My mom's boyfriend used to say things to me about it, and when he was mad at me or when he was drunk, he would beat it up. So it would get holes in its neck or whatever. I'd take it to my grandma, and my grandma would sew it. She'd be the emergency doctor, we would say, or whatever. And yes, I'm talking about even as a fucking teenager. I don't care. She would give buttons on it, so it has like 4 or 5 buttons down the front of it that she would sew on it. And my grandfather was a firefighter at one point in time in his life, so he had a patch and a big firefighter patch. So I had her sew that to the back of him. So yeah, I currently, like I said, have it. It's sitting in my bedroom with a Knicks hat on it because it's got a big hole in the neck. I need to find somebody who could sew before I give it back to my son, because I do plan on handing it down, seeing how I've had it for 42 years now. That's my number one toy.
I have a dog, stuffed dog that my grandmother had given me. It's still sitting in my room. I think everyone has that kind of, obviously it wasn't the pound puppy, but it's kind of the same thing. Just this generic ass dog. I don't know. I don't even know if it has a brand or anything on it. I really don't know. I know there's a tag, but I'm pretty sure everything's worn off of it. But yeah, it was just kind of my thing. Like even when after kind of you get out of that sleeping with a stuffed animal stage as a kid or whatever, I never could bring myself to throw that thing away, right? Like, And that thing is kind of stained and ratted. It is what it is.
Yep.
And it just it sits in a bin, up in my room where I know it's not going to go anywhere. Nothing's going to happen to it. And that's just where it is. Like that's a little.
So I'm not the only one. Good.
No. I have a feeling that there's probably a lot of people out there in that same boat. Honestly, I have a feeling there's a lot of people out there that do the same thing. And it never comes across as like a main childhood toy staple as far as that goes. But it's one of those things I would never get rid of. Like if you had to tell me you're leaving your house and you can take 4 things with you, that's going to be one of the 4. That's going to be one of the 4. Yep. Like bottom line. Yeah, I get it. That's cool, man.
It's not like a play with toy or anything.
Right.
But it's just my number 1 for that. It's sentimental to me. So
the stuffed dragon's been put to bed. Oh, Lord.
Well, I did have a Mary Fuck Kill that I was going to give after the X-Men thing, but I forgot. So I will give it now. I've got Ghost Rider, Hellboy, and Spawn. All
unkillable.
All creatures of hell. I wanted to do one of them as an anime character, but I researched and I was like, I have no fucking clue what I'm looking at. But I wanted to do anime because of your drawn anime. So instead I put in Spawn.
Yeah, I mean, technically Spawn's had his own anime, so.
Yeah, I know, but I was meaning more of the stuff that you're into.
God, that's all right, we're killing Ghost Rider because it's scary as shit. I don't want to see a flaming skull. I don't want to marry a flaming skull. I don't know. So if you figure out how to kill Ghost Rider, he's gone. So I guess that means I'm fucking Spawn, because that doesn't even sound like fun. I really don't want to spend the night with someone who manufactures chains and torture devices at any given time and has a living cloak that feeds off. Yeah, no. Anyway, that's if I survive that night, I am marrying Hellboy. And why would I marry Hellboy, you think? There's not a good marriage scenario in any of these 3. And
I beg to differ.
Hellboy hangs out with a whole team of people, including a couple hot chicks. So it is what it is. And deep down, Hellboy is probably the least scary of the bunch. Yeah. So that's where I'm going. But if he comes in one night and goes, he wants to introduce me to Big Baby, I'm out. I'm out.
All right. Well, mine's opposite. I'm going to actually kill Hellboy. I know what Hellboy is, but it's the least that I'm interested in. So Hellboy is dead for that reason. Spawn, well, the reason you said that you wouldn't want to marry him or whatever, because of the chains and all that kink, I feel like he would probably be pretty good in bed. So I will fuck Spawn, and we can use some whips and chains if that's his thing.
Okay, so sticks and stones may break your bones, but whips and chains excite you. I got it.
And then Ghost Rider is one of my absolute favorite characters. So why not fucking marry Ghost Rider? Plus, he's got fucking a plethora of different vehicles that he can haul me around in. A bike, a sports car, a fucking horse. Let's fucking go, Ghost Rider. Let's tie the knot.
Yeah.
Or the chain, whatever.
As soon as you get on the freaking, motorcycle and his skull lights up, you're getting scorched in the face the whole ride, I mean, that's a suntan I'm not sure you're going to recover from.
Well, on that note, I guess we are wraps up the top 10 toys from our childhood list.
That was an interesting walk down memory lane, without a doubt.
Yeah.
So, not really the most inappropriate list, but it's a list, to say the least.
We talked about fucking Barbie and Ghost Rider. I feel like we made it a little
I mean, that
inappropriate.
was Mary Fuck Kills, and somehow we managed to. I don't know. I did kind of do a spin-off on the toys at the beginning, but some of these are a stretch even for me, motherfuckers. So we closed the book on this one. Literally, I have a book that I put my list in. I'm not really technologically advanced where he just scrolls to a different page on his computer to read his list off. I'm still handwriting this shit.
It's going to be pretty interesting to see on stage if we ever get to that point.
You're like, I got this. Okay, let me open my book.
All right.
All right, y'all. Have a week.
All right, folks, so until next time, I'm Matthew,
I'm Nathan.
and we're here reminding you to be yourself, because everyone else is taken.
So fucking inappropriate.